Hey Divi lovers, I have another Divi theme walkthrough for you. I'm super excited to show you how to create slick, transparent header navigation that stays fixed and changes the colors as you scroll, perfect for giving your website that extra polished look. In this video, I'll be guiding you step by step through the process using Divi's built-in options for the most part and a few CSS adjustments. Hi, my name is Anya and my goal here is to help you build beautiful websites. I love Divi, but its header-related customization options are sometimes lacking, and that is when I come in with a few tips and CSS snippets to the rescue. This tutorial was originally recorded live in my Divi Stylist Academy community, where I share in-depth sessions like this one with my students. And I always try to do my best to take you step by step. So here's what to expect if you stay with me. First, I will explain the problem and, tell you what exactly is happening when you try to create transparent header on top of your content with the theme builder. Then we will create a header section from scratch. I will share a tiny CSS snippet needed to make it work, and then I will share a few additional tips on how to style the navigation, how to change the color of your logo and links when the menu gets fixed. There is a lot to cover, so without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so let me show you the demo site that I've prepared, how it's the end result that I would like to achieve today. So this is the a section with a background image, and the header sits on top of that section. You see how that logo image is like it has the background behind it, basically transparent background. The menu is on top of the image that's below in the first section, and as we scroll we get to change all the colors, even the logo color changes. So that is one little trick I will explain in a moment, and that is it. I wanted to keep that example simple so that we can, you can quickly follow my steps to recreate it later. But like I said, there is a lot more that we could customize it with that, but just wanted to show you the basic, super easy approach and version of that type of header, where you want your navigation to sit on top of the background image, background that blends with the first section, and then change the appearance of your navigation as you scroll down the page. Okay, so let me find, because I do have that same page, but without any header. Okay, let me just, that's going to work well, I think. Okay, so this is the same page, but here my main header is empty. I enable the builder, and I think I will try, we'll see, but let's try working from directly from the page. So I do have a header template assigned to that page in my theme builder, and now to edit that header template, right now it's empty. I only have an empty section and a row. So let me show you what's the problem with that? Why is it difficult? Why it's not something obvious to do in Divi? Because if we, and I will add just a row and a menu module. I do have a white logo I want to use as my logo image here, and my navigation, my links should also be white. So let me first maybe change the background of this section so that I can kind of see what I'm doing. I will use that semi-transparent black so that we see where my section is. And now I can see that my menu module is also using a background color. So let's remove that background. Okay, and now in the design sizing, I want to change the size of the logo, and I will change it by setting its height to 40 pixels. I think that's going to work well. And now my text just changing the fonts a little bit, changing the color of my links, and I will align the text to the right side. Okay, so that's the basic version of my menu I would want to use. Now I need to remove all the spacing here. I don't want that header to be that big. I only need this to be, you know, a slim stripe at the top of the page. So my row design spacing, no padding on a row, both top and bottom, and also in my section settings, spacing, padding, top and bottom 0. Okay, now if I would like that section to be on top of that next section, basically my page content, I could use position fixed. So if I change that to position fixed, now that header will be on top of my navigation. We can see where it's at because it has that semi-transparent dark background. So that works well, but we don't have any control over how it changes as we scroll. And like with anything in web design, there are many different ways we can achieve a similar effect. So we could use some JavaScript to add maybe a custom CSS class as we scroll down, and then based on that class change the appearance of these items here. But since we already have that built in with Divi with the scroll effects, there's really no point of reinventing the wheel and doing everything, coding everything, manually by yourself. But if we would like to use scroll effects, it's not going to work if the section already uses position fixed, because what the scroll effect here, the scroll to top setting does, it's basically changing the position from default position to fixed as you scroll the page. So if I would have keep that position fixed, setting the scroll effects, just to show you, if I choose stick to top, it's not going to, I won't even see the controls for changing the appearance of my elements for sticky section. Only once I disable the position, choose the default position back, then my sticky scroll effect will start to work. And now, well, I think I have to resave that. And now, sorry, scroll effects, stick to top, position, default. Let's maybe disable the scroll effects and enable it back. That's silly, but let's try that. Scroll effects, stick to top, and now my background has that additional icon where I can change the background setting as I scroll. Okay, so let's start with adding a little bit of customization. And what's very good in the builder, that it will recognize that the section is sticky and will add that icon, that sticky setting for every inner element as well. So now if I go to my menu module, I can go in the design menu text and change my menu text color when it's in the sticky state. Okay, so when it's sticky, I want my text to be black. The limitation is that you cannot change the image itself as the content gets sticky. But what we can do, if it only works with a simple logo. I showed that to you earlier, but it's a little trick that will work if you're using black and white logo. And if I were to change that white image to a black one. It won't work if my logo needs to be colored, but I will show you how we can achieve that as well in just a moment. But if it's just an issue of changing a logo from white to black or other way around, we could go into design, logo, and here change the invert setting filter. As we for the sticky state, we want to invert image, and now it's going to be black, right? Inverting with CSS won't work well when you're using color. It basically chooses the color from the opposite side of the color wheel, but for monochromatic logos that will work well, and you don't need to use a separate image. So now the default state and the sticky state. We have all the controls to customize the appearance of elements inside of our navigation right there in the builder. Everything we put inside, if there would be a button module or social follow or any additional header elements, we then would be able to customize their appearance for both the default and the sticky state. Now, one thing missing is that it's not sitting on top of that next section. And that's where we need that tiny little bit of code. And all we need to do is basically move the first section upwards by negative pixel value by the size of our section, header section, right? Let me just save that so we can preview that on the front end. And while I could, just to show you, if I go to edit that first section on my page, actual page content, in the section settings, design, spacing, just negative top margin, negative 80 pixel, for example, and it already moves that section upwards, and that could be it. But the problem with that is I would need to add that, and remember to add that negative margin to the first section of every page that I'm using that effect on. If it's only for a home page and the rest of your site uses a different header, then you could do it this way. But let me show you how we could change it globally for every new page added to that site. If I always want to move it behind the header section, then we can do that with CSS. Okay, so just to show you, if we inspect that page, and let's see, so that you can hopefully see that well. But let's look at the desktop version first. Okay, so we need to know what is the size of our element we want to change. We could set the size in using pixel value in the section settings. Say I want my header to be 100 pixel tall, and it would be, but if we want, just like I didn't, the size of the section, even though there is no spacing, remember I removed the spacing from the section and from the row, the size will be based on the size of your links and additional padding. You see the green part is the padding, and this is what dictates how tall that section is. So like we don't even need to know where is that height coming from, we just need to know how tall is that section. As I hover over it, you see right underneath the number 76, that's the size in that little white pop-up in that in the right corner. I cannot show you, it's right here. You see the size is 667 pixels by 76. Okay, so this is the, if I select that header like a row or a section and see the in the computed area, it will also show me the size. My section is right now with that screen width is over 1000 pixels wide by 76 pixels. That's the calculated height of my header. So I know that this is the value I want to use for the negative margin on that first section underneath. And while adding that negative margin on a section would work on that first element right here, just like we could do in the builder, we can also target the outer container. You see, if you look at the HTML structure with the theme builder header enabled, we have a header with a class ETL header, and then underneath there's div with ID ET main area, and that is the container I would want to target and add that negative margin so that anything added in my page content basically will be moved upwards. So to target that div, we can use that selector div with ID ET main area, and then add margin top negative 76 pixels, right? And that's almost it. We just need to adjust that value for mobiles. Okay, so if I change my size so that we see the mobile version of the site, now the section is no longer 76 pixel wide. Well, I guess I could add some spacing here, but since I didn't, like, it would vary depending on the size of your logo, the size of your links, the size of any additional elements you may have in your section. So it's not the same exact CSS you would copy and paste every time. You do need to be able to check that size, and like I said, it's right here, right there on that white pop-up. You see 923 by 40. So that tells me that the height of my mobile navigation is 40 pixels. So again, I do want to target not the header, but ET main area. And you see now it's moved behind the header and also behind the admin bar. So that's too much space. Although if there's no content there, it may not be a problem, but just to make sure you understand how it works, you may want to adjust that on mobile. So adding that CSS right here created that temporary inspector style sheet for me, so I can edit that CSS again here, and I will duplicate that and now put it inside a media query. So add media max width 980 pixels. So that is the standard Divi breakpoint for when the content switches from desktop to tablet view, where we see the hamburger icon. That's for screen sizes up until 980 pixels. And now that code will only affect that screen size. So if I change that to 40, well, there's not, it's not a big change. You may not even notice it, but now my main area, you see where it's, now it's highlighted in blue, it starts right after my admin bar. So now I can copy that CSS, go back to, well, I could, let's go to the dashboard. There are many places where you can add our CSS, obviously, but let's just add it to my theme options for a moment. And now back here, just refreshing my page. You see, now it works very well. It's already behind my navigation, and it changes as I scroll down. So hopefully not that difficult. One thing I want to also show you is how to change that logo for a completely different image, not with the invert, invert trick or hack, I guess, but just by using another image. And we can position additional image using an image module and position it absolutely on top of that image from the menu module, and then make sure it's set to opacity 0 and only gains opacity when the section is sticky. So again, just using the builder settings for the default and the sticky state, we should be able to add an image that is not visible in the default state and then gets visible as you scroll down. By using position absolute, we can make sure that it sits on top of everything else, and we can basically place it anywhere we like. So position absolute is perfect for that type of thing. So back here when I have my, or maybe let's just close that, enable the builder. Now the CSS I've added in my theme options will work here in the builder as well, so I can see better how my section actually looks. So now to edit the header template, I will remove that background, use transparent header, and only leave the white color as it gets sticky. But let's also add an image module. So in the wireframe mode, if I add an image, it's important, or well, maybe not important, but it will work better if you prepare your logo images so they are the same size, so that there is no like weird jump, just the same same image but in color using the same file size. That would work well. So in the design sizing, I do want to make, let me just show you how it looks now. Okay, so it sits on top of everything, but I will use the same height I used for my logo image in my navigation, so 40 pixels. Now that is as big as my logo inside the menu. And now in the advanced position, we want to change the position to absolute. Okay, so this is where that image goes. I want to position it in the center. Now hi Wiggy, good to see you. Now it is in the center, but there's like this misalignment, and let me just quickly explain something about what Divi does. It will add margin bottom to every module if your row is using a gutter width any other than 1. So by default you have some gutter width like 2 or 3. There are spaces between your columns, right? You know the gutter width setting, and if the gutter is default, every module will have a bottom margin except for the last one. So now if I just change the order, right now my menu has additional margin bottom. I could go into the menu settings, design, spacing, margin bottom 0. Now you see they are positioned better. Or I could change the order of my elements so that my image is first, and then the image would have margin. Anyway, you just need to be aware of these margins. It would only be a problem if you have multiple modules. If the element is positioned absolutely, it doesn't matter what margin it has. It's like on a separate layer, so it doesn't move any other elements. But for this, we do need to remove the margin from the menu, because then it would have that additional space we don't want. Okay, so that's for the menu setting. But going back to my image, I want the initial opacity of that image to be 0. So opacity 0, just so we see what we are doing. Opacity 100, opacity 0. Right now we don't see it, but as it gets sticky, I want the opacity to change to 100%. I see that it's like slightly, I think there is like an issue with my image. But what I also want to do, I want to hide the logo in my menu module. I don't want the two to be like on top of each other. But here in the advanced position settings, we can also adjust the position a little bit if needed. So I think negative horizontal, yes, just 1 pixel horizontal offset, I think due to the image size here, works well. But remember, there is still that image in my menu module that I want to hide. So instead of the invert, no, that's the, to access the menu module settings, wireframe mode. So instead of the invert filter on sticky, this one, we don't want to invert it, so I can no inversion, but opacity, as it gets sticky, it would change opacity to 0, default 100, and that is a setting for the logo, logo image inside a menu module. So right now, that initial logo gets hidden, and my colorful image replaces the logo on the header section. Let me just save that, exit the builder to see. Oh, okay. So one thing I noticed, I'm not sure if it's just me or does it happen to everyone, but right now, going back to image settings, design, sizing, it adds a width of 100%. I'm not sure where is it coming from, but if I set the height, I want the width to be set to auto so that the image resizes, maintaining its aspect ratio. So I do want to remove that 100% that I really don't know where it came from, but it's not the first time that I'm doing that. So I knew exactly what was the problem, but if you do see a weird stretched image, do check if Builder didn't add the width 100% for you. Okay, so this is it. Now I have a header template with a section that I can add any modules inside. Right now, just an image module and a menu module, but I can control everything using the builder settings. So hopefully that is helpful. Now there is still time, so do let me know. There are some additional things we could do with that menu, and one possible problem, Kimberly, if you're joining us, remember, because Kimberly asked that question in one of the previous Q&As. You know how back here in our menu module, design, menu text, and then for menu text color, we have the default color, which is set to white, and then sticky color, I changed it to black. But what if I want to use a different hover color? Now, we do have a hover setting for the hover color, and let's say I want, obviously the purple won't work well for that when the section is not sticky. So here I would want to use something like yellow. Okay, I wouldn't, but just to explain my problem, yellow hover color when the section is in the default state, but when it gets sticky, I want the hover color to be purple, and there is no additional setting for hover and sticky. We already talked about it, but I think it's a good example, and it fits to explain it here as well. So now how can we change the hover color so that it doesn't turn yellow on hover when the section is sticky? Let me save that. Let's see that in the so here, yellow, that is, let's say that's okay. But here I don't want this to be yellow because I can't see yellow on the white background, right? I want to change the hover color of these menu links only when they are in the fixed sticky state. If we inspect that page, the desktop version, we will want to change the links on hover, enabling the hover for a link. Although apparently the link color change, the hover state is not connected to the link itself, but list item. So enabling the hover state on list item, and then link changes the color. So as we hovering over the list item, the links inside would use a different color. Now, as I scroll down, if we look at the HTML structure here of the menu module, or it's not even the, no, not the menu module, but the section, because the section is what we've set to be sticky. So here is that section, div with ETPB section and all the additional classes. And then as I scroll down, you see that change happen in the DOM, in the HTML preview here. What's being changed is that that element gets additional CSS class. My section gets additional CSS class. You see right now it has ETPB sticky section here when it is sticky, and when it's not sticky there is no ETPB sticky section. There are a few additional classes, like even the parent container gets a class of has ETPB sticky. So there is a few different classes we could use as a parent container. They are only visible in that sticky state. So then if we target our links on hover, or when the li is hovered, while being in the parent that has that sticky class, we can modify that background color. Only possible with CSS, not Divi builder settings. So again, the class I would want to use is ETPB sticky as the parent. Okay, so ETPB sticky would be my parent container, this one. Okay, and I know I will be targeting links which are inside a list item that's being hovered over. So li hover a. Okay, but I think I will need to be more specific. So right now that would target any link that is inside a list item that we hover over, which is inside ETPB sticky. These are my only links in that section, but if I were to have a button module, or maybe the image could be a link, or possibly a social follow, I do want to be more specific than that. So I will also use a class from my menu module. I only want to target my menu. So I could use that generic ETPB menu, since there's just one menu. I know there's just one. If you're not sure if you can use the generic Divi class, then adding your own class to the menu would work well. But I think it's going to be safe to add that ETPB menu as the parent as well, ETPB menu, to my selector. And now the color, let's say purple. Okay, now I want this link to be purple. You see my CSS got crossed out, and I can immediately see up here that what builder generated based on that my choice of using the yellow color in the builder settings, they are using a selector that has two classes. Hover is also considered a class, so 3 classes, 30 specificity points, and 1, 2, 3 elements. So mine is only uses 32, but they also use important. So I do need to add important here. And I do need to add maybe another CSS class. So ETPB menu is ETPB module. ETPB module. ETPB menu, ETPB module. Oh, they also have a sticky color, so they have 4. You see how that gets complicated? I could add another CSS class. So ETPB sticky was on a section, so ETPB section. Or we could also just choose one of the IDs, like page container, but still including that sticky in our selector. Right now it works. I managed to add more CSS classes than what Divi generated, and now my purple color on hover is working. So yeah, that is something that we have to remember, that to change, to modify the CSS that's already somewhere in the page source, the CSS that we want to overwrite, then our selectors have to be more specific. And that can mean just one additional CSS class like I did here, or instead of 4 different classes, adding a ID in from a parent container, or any of the elements inside the selector would also work here. Okay, so closing that. Here, hover is yellow, but when it's sticky, as I'm hovering, the color is purple. So that's one thing we can do. What else? Let's see. Oh, Michelle says that you'll be able to put that in action on a site I made some months ago. So I'm happy to hear that. I think this is very common situation. These types of backgrounds do, that type of navigation does work very well for that homepage where you have maybe even a video background or just a nice big striking image that you want your navigation to be blended with. So that can work well, but then transparent navigation will probably never work well as you scroll down. So that is something to think of. Now we could, like I said, still a little bit of time. So let's do 2 more things. First, the things that cannot be done in the builder directly, that easy, I mean, well, the first thing cannot be done, period. If I were to add more space between these menu items, that is something that we cannot do directly in the builder because there's no setting to menu module spacing. But it shouldn't be very difficult. If you have a simple navigation with just a few items, and that striking hero section, it sometimes could be a nice option to add more space between your menu items. Okay, so if we inspect that, as I hover here, we see that the space comes from the right and left padding on each of the menu links. So this is not a link itself, but a list item, so the parent container of the link. That li has 11 pixel right and left padding. We could either add more padding or maybe add some margin, because the difference here between adding padding and margin is how it works as a link. If I add more padding, then hovering over here next to the item, you see how I now hover next to the word, but since it's still the padding that I'm hovering over, the menu gets highlighted, and I could, well, actually I cannot click on it, because you see that's the little, that's not great, but that's how Divi defines its element, the link gets highlighted, but I only can click a element here. A doesn't have that space. So basically the color change happens when we hover the li, and that's not ideal because we still cannot click. That's all to say that maybe it would be a good idea to add more margin next to it, not the padding. So we can target. It would be wise to add a class here now, so maybe let's, or just I will go with the standard iptpb menu, but just remember that it would be better to add the class to the menu module and then target it from here. But let's say I only want to target iptpb menu. That would target every menu, so that's not a great solution. And then just a list item, because if you don't have multi-level navigation, that is only going to target your first menu link. So extending that, giving more space only to your parent links, if you only have one level of links, then a simple selector like this ETPB menu, and then every list item inside that menu, if it has a margin left 20 pixels. Let's see, it's not ETPB menu, list item, and now let's select that. You see my margin left is crossed out, and that means that, oh, you see there is another margin property that uses that selector. I can go with the same one, just add one additional CSS class to it. ETPB menu, ETPB module. Again, making my CSS more specific. And now I have more margin, but that one here would also have that right margin. So maybe instead of, or no, I've added left margin. So yeah, just this one. So it should be fine for something like that. We can leave that margin here for the first item. It shouldn't conflict. If there's not enough space, then I imagine you wouldn't want to add more margin between your menu items. So that could work well. And now this, I think, looks a bit nicer with the menu items spread out if we only have a few. Okay, so I'm not sure. I think that could be all. We will do another, I'm sure, another session where with more complicated header structure, like maybe a button or social follow, and then aligning all these modules together with using what's the settings available in Divi and possibly Flexbox. But I think that this should give you a nice starting point. Really only a few lines of CSS, basically just one line for that negative margin that moves the content, and it would move the content for every section. So you would want to then make sure that other pages of your site, let's see, that's the default, empty blog post. That's just an empty page I just installed locally here. So right now it also has that navigation, which is white and transparent. Maybe you will see the, no, you can't even see it. So keep in mind that doing it globally would require you to have that type of section appear somewhere at the top, or you can just add that instead of adding it, here. If you only want to move your page content, let's say I only want to apply it, remove that from here, and here, if I refresh that page, I think that's this one. Now it doesn't work, but if I go to that, no, not that page, but header template, right now I'm editing the header template, and in the header template settings, advanced custom CSS, now that CSS will only work for that header, and you don't need to worry about changing your first section on that page. If you have that header enabled, that page will use your, you will move the content of your page only for that header. So if it's just one place you want to use it, not the entire page globally, not the entire website, then adding your CSS here could be one of the ways to make sure it's only working in one place. Okay, that would be all. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and that you're excited to try out the transparent header on your Divi site. In my next video, I'll be sharing a theme builder template with this layout, so stay tuned for that. And if you are here to take your Divi and CSS skills even further, I would love to help you out, whether through the Divi Stylist Academy or by working with you directly. All the links you need to learn more or get in touch are right here, so be sure to check them out. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more Divi tips. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.